Welcome everyone to a new Factorio challenge video. I was messing around in the settings of Factorio and I was wondering how little oil can I get by with beating the game. And as you can see, I'm turning down the oil to about the minimum settings I can get to see like one little patch. And there it is, I spotted it. I've got one little patch of oil that I'm going to go off. And that little patch of oil is going to be my oil source for almost the entire game, unless I find another one. Which, I do actually end up finding some more in the future, but they're not really that great. But more on that later. Now it's time for the early game, and in the early game, you don't really need oil. So, this challenge isn't going to affect the early game that much. And now it's time to get started. So I start by setting up a burner miner drill to get me some iron plates, and I'm going to start looking for rocks in the meantime. And I used the wrong tool there, but I'm looking for big rocks that have coal and stone to make it easier for me, and it doesn't look like there's any nearby in that forest. I spot a little desert on the bottom left, and I'm going to head there to get some, hopefully, big rocks. Oh, and don't worry too much about the music. I'd forgotten to turn it off when I started recording, but I fixed it later. Luckily the early game's same as always. Get some iron, mine some stone, get a coal snake up and running, then mine some copper and finally set up some power. And I got my first lab put down and started the research automation. And after that I started to set up a simple little mall to craft some chips, gears, and belts. Mostly so I don't have to craft them all by hand. Save me a little bit of time as I set up my furnace stacks. And with that set up, I start setting up my first furnace stack. It's pretty bad, mostly because I didn't have splitters at that point, and I wanted to put the ore on the side belts, but I was forced to put it on the middle belt. It's going to be redone here very soon. And there it is in all its working glory. I was in the middle of expanding out the stack when I got my first attack. Considering how close that nest was to my miners, it makes sense. I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier, honestly. Probably due to all the trees around here. So I figured it was time for a little revenge. But in the process, I walked too close to the nest and triggered an attack on myself. Got the turrets down in time though, so it didn't really damage me too much. But now I'm going to start creeping forward, placing more turrets as it goes. Then I make the dumb decision to preserve ammo by only taking out the nest with a shotgun, and get myself nearly killed in the process. I finally wisen up and place some turrets to help me take up those last 3 nests. Oh wait, did I say 3? No, I meant 2. For some reason I decided to go back at it with the shotgun. Again. I honestly don't know what over me here. I'm almost dead and shooting a worm with a shotgun while getting attacked by a bug in the meantime. My intelligence never fails to astound me. Yep, that sound you're hearing in the background is the constant sound of the heart beating because I'm super low health. Finally, with much great effort, I finally managed to take out the nest. And now I'm fixing up the iron stack, putting the ore on the outer belts and the plates on the inner belt, fixing the inserters so I don't make steel by accident. And now with that for the most part done, it's time to set up some belt automation again and get started on the starter base. And some quick red science getting set up. And now to set up some labs to get some actual research going. And now I'm setting up some materials for green science as well as automating automation machines and mining drills, which will be very useful for later when I'm actually setting up my actual base. And there's green science. Now to route it back to the labs. And now I'm just setting up some quick steel for my starter base. I'm going to automate steel furnaces when I can, to actually set up some actual furnace stacks later. My biggest goal for right now is to get oil as soon as possible, because I know that oil source that I have access to is not a good oil source, and I need to get that pumping as soon as possible. I just need to stock up as much oil as I can while I'm not using it. I recorded this next part live, so I'll just let Playing Jay take it over from here. The biggest reason why I need to start stockpiling oil as soon as I can right now is because to get to here, advanced oil processing, I'm going to need 75 chemical science packs, which means I need to handcraft about 40 chemical science packs, of which I will need 120 red chips and 40 sulfur. To craft all that, I need raw around 6,700 crude oil that is crafted into 3,000 petroleum gas until I get advanced oil processing. It gets a little more complicated from there as I get to coal liquefaction, but that's what I'm worried about for now. I cleared out the nest next to the oil source, and with oil pump in hand, I make my way over to the patch and put a pump on it. Just to discover I get oil at a blistering speed of 1.2 oil a second. This certainly will have no harmful effects on me in the future. Decided to set up some more automation for red belts and some more yellow belt essentials. I set up some red ammo automation in the past, but I just didn't get the chance to record it. But it's there. And setting up some stone bricks for steel furnace automation and for making more pathways. I decided now would be a good time to do some scouting. There's a little bit of pollution out of the map area that I can't see, and I want to make sure I'm not polluting any nests. And of course I crash into a tree right as I finish taking out the nest. Well, could have been worse. I'm done with this dinky little starter base. I'm going to start setting up some actual furnace stacks for a big base. It's not really going to be amazing throughput so far, but as I get more furnace stacks up, it should get better. And that's the first stack done. Now I'm going to do that about 5 more times. 1 for copper, 2 for steel, and then maybe 1 for stone bricks. And that's 4 done. I decided to put off the stone brick one for later. In the grand scheme of things, you don't really need that much stone bricks. Now I've just got to connect everything into here and we'll have a full production. And now I'm just hooking coal up to the main furnace stack. We got iron and everything else hooked up to it, and I'm going to start the main bus here soon. And now I'm just setting up the beginning of some buses over here. We're going to do an iron bus and a copper bus for start, and then a chip bus once I get them set up. Forgot to add a few power poles to the stack here. And there's some green chips set up using the general 3:2 ratio. Works just fine, except I forgot to rotate some inserters the right direction. Other than that, works like a charm. Almost a full red belt out of that. And now I'm setting up a mall for everything. Belts, red and yellow, inserter arms, and some of the assembling machines and miners. Free myself a little of the handcrafting hell I put myself in. And that's pretty much everything I want done for now. Now to set up some steel. I'm just going to use this little patch of iron I found earlier for the steel production. I'm going to supplement it with another iron patch in the future, but this should do for now. And this whole time, that one oil patch has been pumping 1.2 oil a second, and we'll get to that here soon. Once I get red and green science re-automated, I gotta start focusing on blue, and hopefully I'll have enough oil for advanced oil processing at least. Well, it's time to start thinking about oil processing, and moment of truth. I do have enough oil for it so far, so I can move ahead. So I need to process this oil into 3,000 petroleum gas, and no more than that. So I'm going to put up a simple pump to stop it once it reaches 3,000. And with the circuit network research being done, I can actually set it up properly. I don't know why I gave myself room for an extra oil processing plant when I will never need it, but it's there now, so guess I can process my limited stockpile faster. And now I'm setting up some quick plastic production. I'm gonna need 240 plastic, which is just 120 coal. The remaining petroleum gas is just gonna go straight into sulfur. And I've divided up the plastic to be inserted into these assembling machines. This is gonna make me the 120 red chips I need. Engines are easy enough, and since they require no oil, I'm just gonna quickly automate them for the chemical science. And now to start crafting the chemical science packs. This should make me exactly 80 chemical science packs. And now I've got some new lab setups, red and green science re-automated. So we're gonna go back to researching again. And I'm just gonna slip in the chemical science packs of this last row here. That should be more than enough to cover this. I've decided I need more iron, so I'm gonna expand to that iron patch up to the north. I don't know why I decided to use a train here when I could have used a belt. I guess I just gravitate towards trains sometimes. I then went over to give that patch's neighbors a nice eviction notice, let them know they weren't welcome. I always find this method the easiest way to get rid of fighters in the early game. I was about to take out that last nest by myself, but then I remembered what happened last time I tried to do that. Now that I've got advanced oil processing, I don't have to worry about limiting how much oil I can process, since it's just going to be the same regardless. Which, in hindsight, I should have regretted because productivity modules are a thing, and I should have just gone straight for them. But, oh well, hindsight is 2020. Don't know why I decided to put 2 oil refineries there, as well as 2 cracking plants for light oil as well. I guess it's just neater with 2, I don't know. But all I needed was 1. I'd never need more than 1 with this oil source. Remember that iron patch I routed a train to a while ago? Well, right now I'm just finishing setting up the train station for unloading the iron. Yeah, it took me so long to get done with this. I guess you could say I'm easily distracted. And then I just noticed I didn't put the inserters into chests, so I gotta rebuild that section. Since my next biggest goal is coal liquefaction, I'm going to go ahead and barrel some heavy oil for it. This next part I once again recorded live, so I'm going to let LiveJ take it over again. So, it comes down to this. I'm going to need Advanced Material Processing, Production Science Pack, and Coal Liquefaction. To make the Advanced Material Processing, I need 250 Chemical Science Packs. For Production Science, I'll need about another 100. And then for coal liquefaction, I'll need 200 more chemical science, and then 200 production science packs. In total, I'll need 550 chemical science and 200 purple, which means I'll need to craft 225 chemical and 70 purple science packs by hand or by machine. To make all of them total, I will need 1,825 red chips total, which is about 3,650 plastic. If I put productivity 1s in all the the oil processing plant and the crackers as well as the plastic producing machine, I can reduce that cost from the oil from about 41,000 oil to around 32,000 oil. But I will need about 1,000 oil to make the 9 productivity 1 units I need. Also, I want to put some in the labs as well. So that's about another 1,000 oil. I have 6.9 thousand petroleum gas. And no oil in the tank. I see I've already burned through it all. So another thing to note is with advanced oil processing, oil to petroleum gas is about 1 to 1. So 6,000 petroleum gas is about 6,000 oil. And for some reason again, I optimistically put down more than 1 machines to produce plastic. And all I'm ever going to need is 1 for this. The terrifying part is I'm only 7,000 oil into a total of 41,000 needed in producing oil at 1.2 a second. I mean, yeah, there's things I can do to kill time while waiting for the oil to produce, like setting up military signs. But still, this is going to take hours of waiting, and what a normal playthrough should only take about a few minutes for all this oil. I was setting up some more labs to research a little faster. I was also looking for some new ways to take out nests that don't involve a tank, because it's not really in reach right now. But the neighbors have been bothering me again, and I need a new way to evict them. So I found the Defender capsules. Haven't really used them much, honestly forgot they were a thing, but I'll figure out how they go. And once again I triggered the nest a little early, and wow, these things are actually decent. They follow you around, they shoot everything in sight, and I can have up to 15 following me at this point. Like, I demolished this nest so fast. And while I'm in the area, I decided to take out a few more problematic nests in the area. Once again, I'm just putting down 15 Defender capsules, just basically taking a stroll right into the nest, while dodging a few acid pools along the way. Sadly, I know, once I get to around 50% evolution, these things will probably become useless. While I'm still waiting for oil to make that first batch of chemical science, I decided to fully take over my starter stone mine, which I hadn't done yet. I just started partially making that first batch of chemical science for advanced material processing. I didn't have enough sulfur, and I'm completely out of oil, and I lost my patience. I put a few productivity ones in the labs, and I'm putting my first batch of chemical in there. It's not a complete batch yet, but this should suffice for now. I'm starting to get desperate. It's been hours since I've set up military science, and I'm nowhere near that 40,000 oil mark to get coal liquefaction. So now I'm going on a desperate search to find one, if any, oil patches around here, to at least supplement that crappy oil source until I get coal liquefaction. And finally, after about 30 minutes of driving around, I finally managed to find a small oil patch with a very bad yield. Not a single one of these pump more than 5 oil a second, but the key difference here is there's more than one. There's no way I'm taking out this massive nest with my current technology, so I'm going to put some solar panels down, put the oil in barrels, and drive back with it in my car. Finally, after several trips of going back and forth delivering oil, I finally got enough chemical packs set up to finish advanced material processing. I'm just starting the production of electric furnaces, which I will need for purple science. I'm going to need 70 of these. Once again, another batch of chemical science to unlock the production science pack. And there's production science done. All that's left is coal liquefaction, and I'm finally free. And now I'm making my batch of production science. Never actually used coal liquefaction before, never really had a need to use it, but I decided I'm going to start doing some setup for it while I can. It's almost done researching, just a few more minutes now. And after many hours, the research is finally complete. Coal liquefaction is done, and I can finally have a reliable source of oil. Now I just gotta route coal over to this and finish setting up cracking. I'm just gonna let that one machine run for a bit, build up the heavy oil before I turn the entire thing on. And now to watch it spring to life. I definitely underestimated how much coal this thing can eat. Now that I got a reliable source of oil, it's time to focus on more important things, like plastic production, and sulfur production, and finally automated red chips. And now with all those ingredients put together, I can finally automate some chemical science packs. All these new machines has put quite the strain on my power production, so I've got to put some new steam engines down before I start entering a power spiral of death. I started setting up electric engine production, even though I don't even have it researched yet, but I want construction bots and I wanted them 3 hours ago. But then the biters decided to eat the coal mine supplying my coal liquefaction, so I decided I should probably take out those nests that are absorbing my pollution now. Even with medium biters, those protector robots are still pretty good. Some sulfuric acid for batteries. And with batteries done, it's time to put together the flying robot frames. And right after I set up construction bots, my recording stopped, but I put together RoboPort automation and put 2 more furnace stacks down, as well as doubled my green chip production. And now to set up some more coal. This coal liquefaction is very coal hungry and I'm going to need a lot of it. This should give me about 2 full red belts of coal production, which should be enough for the rest of the game. I put down 4 more oil processing plants since 1 red belt of coal can support around 14 of them. And now to set up some explosives for explosive cannon shells and cliff explosives. And then right before I finish setting up the explosive cannon shells, spiders decide to eat my coal mine. And now with explosive cannon shell set up, I can go ahead and take out those spider nests near my coal mine so I don't have to worry about them attacking it again. But I got distracted again and I decided that acquiring more copper is much more important than protecting my factory. So I get out my train book and start placing some rails. The reason I'm doing this is because I plan on expanding to an iron mine further up as well. I mean, yeah, I could have just been a little lazier and did 2 double-headed trains, but I needed to put multiple trains on the copper line anyways, so I'm glad I did it this way in the end. And there's a train station all set up. 2 stops are for copper and 2 are for iron. The biters came up and ate my copper mine, so I decided it was high time for some revenge. And the defender robots still prove useful as I just trail them behind my tank and they take out the biters chasing me. Now all I have to do is focus on destroying the nest and just leave. Until I run out of them, of course. Since I already have flying robot frames done, I decided I'm going to set up the rest of the ingredients for yellow science, starting with LDSs. Then to set up some blue chips. I'm just going to go ahead and copy my setup from chemical science and use that for yellow science. And here's where I set up a second train for copper. That one train just isn't enough for my copper demand. My power production is really struggling right now, and if I don't do something about it soon, I'm going to start experiencing brownouts. So I decided to research and set up a small nuclear plant. This should hold me over till the end of the game. Now I'm going to finally set up my last science, which is purple science. This is everything I need then. I'm going to finally take over that iron mine I've been eyeing for a little bit. My iron plate production is running low, and I'm starving my green chips in the process. I'm very close to beating the game now. I just gotta set up the things for the rocket silo, and then I'll be good to go. I'm actually very close to beating the game in under 15 hours. I've never actually tried to speedrun the game. Even though I have over 1,000 hours in this game, I'm still not that great at it. But I've set my eyes on the goal of beating it in under 15 hours, and that's what I'm going to try to do. The chips are still being starved from not enough green chips, so I'm bringing the green chips from the second production over to the red chips. In hindsight, I should have done this a lot earlier, but I was a little too lazy. And now I'm going to set up some RCUs. My factory's still starved for red chips, so I'm just going to do this for now. And now I'm going to set up some rocket fuel. In hindsight, I should have done this a while back ago, but I didn't. Since the rocket silo's only done, I'm running around my factory grabbing all the various ingredients I need for it. And now all I have to do is place it down. At this point, I have about 20 minutes left to beat the game in 15 hours. Now I'm just routing the rocket fuel and building some more rocket control units for the rocket. And all that's left to do is wait. I quite enjoyed this challenge in the end. I think I would have changed in the end is instead of having oil patches spawn at all, I'd have just had me spawn in with a starter amount of oil and be that the only oil I have for the entire game until I get cold liquefaction. But this challenge did make me switch up the way I play the game a bit. I always just ignored cold liquefaction because of all the oil the game provided to you, and also the recipe was a little complicated as well. But since I was basically forced to use it, I now realize that the recipe is actually really easy as long as you know a little bit about circuit conditions. And that's all I really gotta say about this challenge. Now I just have to wait for my ride. Well, there it is. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I've done some Factorio live streams in the past, but I've never really done a full Factorio video before. If you want to see some more Factorio, just let me know. I'd definitely be interested in playing more and making this base into an actual mega base, or starting a whole new challenge. And if you do want to see some more Factorio content, I have some Factorio live streams on my channel as well. Well, there it is. Didn't quite make the 15-hour mark, but I was close. And I got the Raining Bullets achievement, so it was worth it in the end. Alright, you have a good day now. Goodbye.